Bum 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 bum. Ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum bum 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 ba-da-da-dum bum bum ba-dum ba-ba-dum ba-dum da-dum da-dum bum ba-dum da-da-dum ba-da-dum da-dum 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 bum ba-da-dum dun 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 ba-dum ba-da-dum ba-da-dum dun 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 bum ba-dum bum 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 ba-dum 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 dun dun. Oh, hello. Here come all my friends. Hello, Bob and Deb. Hi. From we've got Texas and Australia, and these I know these glasses are very strange, but they protect my eyes. Hello from Colorado and Oklahoma. Those are my mighties. Welcome, my mighty friends. Welcome, my Facebook friends and X, believe it or not, and Rumble and YouTube. It's great to see you all. So good to see everyone, particularly because last week I missed you. I missed you all last week. I'm so sorry. Our internet went down not too long just before we were about to go on. We could not get our phones up and running fast enough to make sense of it. So we had to let one go. And so I know it must have been a little frustrating for you. I'm sure you wondered what was going on. And you may also be wondering, where am I? Isn't this great looking? Well, I'm on the island of Ortigia in Syracuse, Sicily. Yep, my friends, I am on a vacation. I've not had a vacation in, I don't know, what did we figure? A couple decades, maybe? I mean, I do travel, but it's not for fun, it's not for pleasure or relaxation, it's usually for work. And what brought me here with my family is that we just spent some time with Boiron in Lyon, France. And so we thought, well, while we're there, let's take a little trip to Sicily, the area that my grandparents, both sides, were born. And so that's what we're doing, and it's great. Isn't this beautiful? We're actually right on the Mediterranean, and the window a little bit further away on this side of the room. The window is wide open, and you can actually, we can hear the waves crashing against the rocks. And so it's so wonderful to see all of you, and from a great exotic place such as Syracuse, Sicily. And so thank you for joining me. Hey there from Texas, says Annie, and Brenda from Bristol, Connecticut. And what else do we have? Martine from Charleston, South Carolina. Love, love, love Italy. I know it's fabulous, isn't it? Yeah. It is beautiful here. There's nothing quite like it. And we're in an old building. We don't know how old this building is, but you can tell by the stones behind me that it's got some provenance, to say the least. And so let's get to business, shall we? Let's talk about sugar cravings, sweet cravings. And sugar cravings doesn't necessarily mean we're only talking about actual cane sugar. We're talking obviously about sweets and too much fruit and excuse me, and carbs too. But mostly we're talking about that craving for sweets. Now let me first tell you that I've had that craving. It is, hello from Singapore, Yana. And so it's, I know that feeling. It's quite, it's a loss of control when you feel you just can't stay away from sweets. So what I decided to do, I don't eat desserts very often. Well, when we go out to dinner, which here we're going out to dinner every night. And my husband often orders dessert. And so I'll have a spoonful. And I can be pretty satisfied with that. Sometimes I just say no to it completely. But I have to tell you that for the longest time, I was using stevia in my coffee. Excuse me. And And I realized that I had the feeling it was building this craving. It was making the craving for sweets even greater. So I decided to cut it out. And then, of course, I foolishly went to monk fruit. Same idea. And I cut that out. Now I have my coffee with, if I can get raw cream, I'm going to use raw cream. Sometimes I use pasteurized cream. And more often than not, I drink my coffee with maybe a little milk or nothing at all in it. Well, I put a lot in my coffee. I've talked about that to my mighties before, but I don't have I don't have sweets in it any longer, and it has made a difference. Now, we all know this. It's nothing new, right? But sometimes we have to go further than this. Sometimes it's a matter of really needing some help, a medicine that will truly make the difference. And that's where what kind of medicine comes in? Homeopathic medicine, right? And so I want to talk to you about the few remedies to consider. I've got some notes right here. And I'm going to use my newly developed, well, a little bit more evolved Italian accent, because as we're driving through the streets or walking through these little narrow, beautiful narrow streets, I read everything I can because I want to catch up on all the lost time in speaking, or at least reading Italian. So I've got, how many medicines? I think I have only 3 medicines here to talk to you about tonight, because there aren't very many. Well, I mean, look, we could look it up in the repertory and find that there are many medicines that have a craving for sweets, but I think I'm only going to, no, I've got 4 medicines. And so the first one that I want to talk to you about is Argentum nitricum. Argentum nitricum. And that has, it is one of our most known medicines for craving sweets. And it doesn't matter what kind of sweet it is. A sweet is a sweet is a sweet. So it has an intense craving for sweets. I actually wrote an article many years ago that was published in Wise Traditions. I had a column there for many years, which is the Weston Price Foundation's quarterly journal. And what was the name of it? It was called, what was it called? Yeah, Wise Traditions. The name of the article is what I'm trying to think of. I'll think of it in a minute. Some of you may know it because I've talked about it many times. But it was an article about a woman who was a pastry chef and made the best of pastries, but she insisted on eating sweets, even junky sweets, and she loved, believe it or not, Twinkies. So, this person who can have this craving that is so strong, it rules their lives, and that certainly we don't want that. But I want you also to notice that this medicine, Argentum nitricum, is a great medicine for when we see that intense craving, along with sometimes an intense craving for salt, sometimes together or sometimes just but within the same day or so. That strong salt craving and that strong sweet craving is an identifier for Argentum nitricum. They can also have belching, eructations, and the eructations or belching can actually be explosive. It's so intense, and that belching is a rather key factor in choosing Argentum nitricum. So there can also be great belching, but there can also be kind of incarcerated belching. In other words, they know they've got something there that needs to be released, but they simply can't. It's incarcerated. So, and when it does release, it can be loud and explosive and seem out of character with the person. Also, there can be flatulence. So there's a building of gas that needs to be released out of the body, and they can have a distended belly. And the distended belly can be quite noteworthy. I mean, you say, my gosh, look how swollen that person is. And it really is not a swelling. It's nothing more than simply incarcerated gas in the belly. Now, one other thing. Colic can be associated with this. Now, colic is kind of a generalized term, and colic can mean pain, cramps, that kind of thing. But also, this person can have anxiety. Now, listen, everyone can have anxiety, right? But we're not talking about just anxiety from time to time. We're talking about anxiety that is consistent enough that they start thinking about, I am far, far too anxious. So we would use argentum nitricum. Now, in the past, I would have used argentum nitricum 200C and only used it, maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. I think differently now. I like the repetition. I think that repetition in homeopathy, if done properly, is really great because it keeps it from the remedy from causing an aggravation. In other words, it keeps the remedy from making people feel worse before they start feeling better. So I would use argentum nitricum maybe every 3 days for a week, 2 weeks, and get a feel for it. If there's a shift, then we know we're on to the right medicine. And as you know, if the person is made to feel worse, we stop. That is our indicator with this method. What method is this? It's practical homeopathy, which I have actually trademarked. I don't know any other way of making this clear. So I've trademarked it so that people understand that it is a very specific way of thinking in that we repeat the medicines more frequently than what classicals would do. And I often use protocols. Now, this is not a protocol. I'm not telling you that this is a protocol. What I'm telling you is that this is an overall way of thinking about how to use this argentum nitricum. And I would use it in a 200C. Okay, let's go to the next medicine. And so I don't want you to think that you have only one to choose from because we're going to talk about 4. The next one is one that if you know anything about homeopathy, my friends, you know this medicine, and it's Lycopodium clavatum. But Lycopodium is a good enough word just to know that because it is the most commonly used type of Lycopodium. It's one of the oldest plants on earth, by the way. It's club moss is what it's made from. And I usually use it in a 200C for a gut problem. And this, my friends, is certainly a gut problem. Intense sugar cravings with many digestive issues. Again, not too far off from argentum nitricum. And often the person, if we have a whole picture that this medicine could be good, there's often an aspect where they have a low self-esteem. And they have to make up for it by sometimes being bombastic or overstepping bounds or just kind of making up for it. If that's not there, don't worry about it. We don't need to have a psychological aspect to this, but I want you to think of this medicine for craving of sweets and also bloating, not unlike argentum nitricum. They can have anticipatory anxiety. Argentum nitricum is anxiety, free-floating, non-specific, but Lycopodium is very specific with anticipatory anxiety. Uh-oh, we're going to be late. Oh my gosh, I'm not sure we're going to make it in time. I'm not sure this is going to make sense. What if we don't get there in time? That anticipatory anxiety. Oh my gosh, I have to get to the dentist. This is maddening. It's too frightening. Now, Lycopodium 200C is also an excellent medicine, as you'll know if you've taken my Good Gut, Bad Gut course, or if you've simply read my blogs. You know Lycopodium 200C twice a day is one of our best medicines for food intolerances, particularly that presents with, you bet, that bloating. And let's add that craving for sweets. Let's see what else we've got here. Now, I have to say, Lycopodium can be used for a woman, can be used for a child. It can be used for bloat, which can be pretty dangerous for certain animals, such as dogs. And so we would always use it in that same I would not use Lycopodium in the 30th potency for this condition Oh, nay, nay. I would use it in a 200C twice daily. But I want you to also think lycopodium is more often, but not always, more often used for men. So that picture of that self-esteem, not sure of himself, anticipatory anxiety, bloating, and craving for sweets, lycopodium, such a beautiful medicine. And by the way, my friends, I didn't bring all my books with me because I'm traveling, but I do want you to know I brought my Boraki Materia Medica. Maybe you might be interested in seeing this. It's my pocket manual, Homeopatica Materia Medica. Narayana Publications. It's a great publishing house out of Germany. I like it because it's leather bound, it's got a ribbon, and it's quite extensive. Now, my Materia Medica is a quick reference, very quick desktop to get people involved. But once you want to get very deeply more involved, I love this book. Great for travel, love it. Narayana Publications. And again, it's William Boraki Pocket Manual of Homeopathic Materia. Oh, and also, by the way, there's a repertory in the back. That's why I like to carry this. Yep. Now, let us talk about the next one. Now, I have to tell you, this next one is particularly interesting in my estimation, and I think you're going to agree with me. It is called Saccharum officinale. Saccharum officinale. So it's saccharum, S-A-C-C-H-A-R-U-M, and then officinale, O-F-F-I-C-I-N-A-L-E. But I don't want you to confuse this. This is not to be confused, my friends, with saccharin, the product, which is spelled differently. This is actually made from cane sugar. So saccharum officinale is the Latin word for cane sugar, and used particularly in using it for homeopathy. Okay. I'm looking at some questions. I've always heard lycopodium for constipation. Yep, you bet, Tiffany. It's a great medicine. Yep, lycopodium can have constipation. And in my Good Gut, Bad Gut course, and I think maybe even on the blog, I've talked about using it mixed with Plumbum 200. Lycopodium 200 mixed with Plumbum 200. So lots of gut issues. Absolutely. Lots of gut conditions when it comes to lycopodium. Wish they didn't stop publishing it. Oh yeah, actually, you know what? I do think they had stopped publishing. But this is, listen, Boraki, William Boraki, Dr. William Boraki is a homeopath of old, and you'll find other books that you might not find this exact one, but there are others similar to this because I love this size, as you can imagine. I actually keep it in my carry-on when I'm flying. Okay, so I want you to remember that saccharum officinale is not to be confused with saccharin, the product, spelled differently. And it is a medicine where there isn't a lot of other pictures. There is no belching. There's no anticipatory anxiety. There's no bloating. There's simply a tremendous craving for sweets. And we've got, it's a pure, simple craving for sweets that is pathological. And that's what we're looking for. We don't want to treat something that doesn't have a pathology, my friends. Why don't we want to do that? Why would we not want to do that? Because, my dear friends, homeopathy is medicine. And so we use it specifically for conditions. Occasionally, we'll use homeopathy as a prophylactic for something. Occasionally, we'll use it without there actually being a specific disease yet presenting. But it is, I want to remind you that homeopathy is medicine. Beautiful medicine, good medicine, polite medicine, but it's medicine nonetheless. So if there is a craving for sweets that is off the charts, and there are no other conditions related to it or otherwise, and all you want to do is stop that, I would use saccharum officinale in either a 30, maybe a 200C potency. I think I would use it most likely in a 30. And then I would use it perhaps twice daily until we see a change over a period of time. How much time? Well, it can be determined by how the person responds to the medicine. Don't expect this to be like a lightning bolt, my friends. When homeopathy acts, it often is not. It's very subtle. Symptoms melt away. You don't notice that they've gone. And that's the way they're supposed to be. You're not supposed to remember you had horrible suffering. You're supposed to just live your life. And then suddenly you might say, oh my gosh, I forgot all about that bloating. That's all gone. Or you know what? I forgot that, yes, I had colic. I had cramping. And indeed, I had the feeling of an incarcerated belching, and that has gone, or it's minimized. We're not asking for perfection, my friends. We're asking for resolution comparatively. Compared to what? To the way it was before the medicine was commenced. Okay? So I like this medicine, especially for when children are out of control. If there is one treat in the house and the mother has hidden it so well, yet that child can find it no matter what, and it's got to be every day, and the child is really adamant about these sweets, then that could really be a great medicine to help pull things back into balance. I want you, if you've got this book, or if you've got, no matter what homeopathic materia medica you have, read up on this medicine. The Saccharin Officinale is an incredibly interesting medicine. So is Lycopodium, and so is Argentum nitricum. They're all fascinating remedies. I'm giving you the upshot. I'm giving you the fine-tuned discussion of what this is about in each of these medicines. I can't cover it completely. Now, then, number 4. Then there is a medicine that's not used very often by most. I use it frequently. I learned it by working with the Dr. Banerjee for those years, and that is Chelidonium magis. Chelidonium magis. Chelidonium, Chelidonium. Magis is spelled Majus, and I love this medicine in a 6. I like it in a 6 because not only is it something that can be used for a very long period of time, depending on what we're looking at. We use it in a 6 twice daily. It is a liver medicine. It is a gallbladder remedy. It's a blood sugar medicine. It has so many wonderful properties that have to do with the digestive system, particularly around the pancreas, the gallbladder, as I said, the blood sugar, the liver, all of that. It's an unbelievable medicine for any liver condition. Any liver condition. I can't think of a liver condition in which it wouldn't be. The enzymes, the liver enzymes are off the charts, or even if they're not, either they're off, they're not the way they should be. Chelidonium magis 6C 2D, twice a day, or BID is another way of saying it. And it can be used for many months, and you will be surprised how that medicine can work. It's also, I'll never forget my first pregnancy. I took foolishly, and I'm saying this parenthetically, my friends, because I want those who are pregnant or are thinking about getting pregnant or have a daughter-in-law who is pregnant to think about this. I foolishly took prenatal vitamins. And I thought I was being so smart. I thought I was being so cautious, and instead I was not. And it didn't matter that there was enough of this and not enough of that, and I don't remember how I looked it up, but I said I'm going to use the best prenatal vitamin there is. And so I took the vitamins, and there was iron that was difficult for my baby, for me to process, hence my baby to process in utero. And he came out with jaundice. His eyes, the sclera of his eyes were yellow. The gums above and around his teeth were yellow. His skin had a yellow hue. The bilirubin level was quite high. I'll never forget, it was a 24.5. Now, they insisted, and it was while I was still young enough not to think this through more readily, not to be as unprepared as I was. First mistake, I took the stupid synthetic vitamins. Secondly, once it was clear that he had a high bilirubin level and that his liver was not processing properly, I allowed them to put him in the box of lights. And of course, I stayed with him. Nowadays, they send people home. They send the mothers home with the baby in the box, in the lights. And now I know much differently. I would have instead held my baby in the sunshine as long as I could throughout the day. And I would have given, particularly in that case, because the bilirubin was so high, I would have used chelidonium 6C 2D twice daily to my baby. Give it to the baby. Yes, chelidonium 6 twice a day. And that, now I know we're talking about sugar here and cravings, but it's a little aside that I think is so important for you folks to know. You should know all of these little tidbits that I've learned through the years that I am happy to share with you. So what I should have done was just eaten a really great diet, right? Mothers never had to take synthetic vitamins 100 years ago, 200, 5,000 years ago. Just eat extremely well. We won't go into that kind of a diet right now because that is a whole other discussion. So let's see what your questions are right now. Let's see. I took those stupid vitamins too. Yeah, Deborah, I know. It was foolishness. And it sounded so holistic at the time. We're talking about the 80s. It sounded holistic, but it was foolish. Absolute foolishness. Vitamins, I'm sorry, very anti-vitamins when they are taken. When they're eaten, when they're absorbed, probably used or manufactured by being in the sun, that vitamin D thing, like this, now that I'm in Sicily, I'm going to take on my family's old ways of gesturing, and I'm going to tell you those vitamins are they're not for us. We get our vitamins naturally through our foods, and we make sure that they are, that the food is as pure as can be and as rich in nutrient density as possible. And that will make the difference. Oh, thank you very much, Miriam, for writing this all. Wow, really nice job. Very nice in my mighties. Look, you've laid out the whole thing. Intense sugar cravings like a podium club moss. You bet. Tremendous cravings. You guys are great. You're really, really incredible. Love those mighties. Love those on YouTube too. But listen, if you're on YouTube and you have not joined my mighties, do come over, my friends. Just go to joettecalabrese.com and go to the Learning Center or Joette's Learning, just Joette's Learning Center. And you will find how to become a member of Joette's Mighty Members. Syzygium. Now, I have to tell you, syzygium is a good one too. It's not homeopathic. It is botanical. And I think I've talked about syzygium in the past, and I do like syzygium very much. And it is a botanical, which means that it's still in the mother tincture. Syzygium mother tincture, taking twice daily. For some people, that's syzygium, that's Syzygium, syzygium, as they say in Sicily, syzygium. And it is an excellent medicine for some people. Others don't find it to be so useful. And in those cases, if all it is sweets, and there are no other outstanding symptoms, I'm going to go directly to Sacrum Officinale. Let's see if I've got anything else to share with you before we sign off. And let's see, chelidonium 6 2D. That's right. You bet. Neonatal hyperbilirubin is a moneymaker for hospitals and often impedes breastfeeding. Don't fall for it. Thank you so much. You are so. I didn't know what was going on, and I must admit I had never even heard of an increased bilirubin. belly too, bilirubin at that time in my life, but I can tell you that I certainly boned up on it after that because I was not going to fall for it with my second and third children, and so I didn't. By the way, my second and third children were born at home anyway, so that wasn't even a concern. All right, my friends, get rid of those outdated assumptions. Let's stop and do our homework. And I know sometimes it's hard to do the homework for everything that's forthcoming, but the more you learn, the more you realize, you know what, this fits, that fits, this fits, that fits. And if you're not part of my study group's Gateway to Homeopathy, that is a real bonus because you're talking to other people online or those in your own living room where you're studying together and you are very helpful to each other. So if you've never heard of a bilirubin that's too high, had never heard of cheladonia, maybe someone in your study group will have. God love you all. Have a great week. I will see you next Monday. And next Monday, I'm still going to be in Europe. And so I'll see you then. Take care. Bye now.
With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. My family needs me, so I must know our remedies. How much to take, how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. Athusa, no dairy, it's elementary with arnica head, arsenicum fed, spigelia slither, orm sperm wither, no more infirm. My family needs me, so I improve my memory. Not only the rems, but how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With your homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. Bella so red and arnica head, drosera bark, ignatia dark, source of frigid and cuprum to rigid, and crude itches, calica barnicum, let it melt on your gumbo, vista weed are some great ways to treat yellow. La 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 la, homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. My family needs me, so I must know our remedies. How much to take, how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. Athusa, no dairy, it's elementary with arnica head, arsenicum fed, spigelia slither, orm sperm wither, no more infirm. My family needs me, so I improve my memory. Not only the rems, but how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With your homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. Bella so red and arnica head, drosera bark, ignatia dark, source of frigid and cuprum to rigid, and crude itches, calica barnicum, let it melt on your gumbo, vista weed are some great ways to treat yellow. La 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 la, homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. My family needs me, so I must know our remedies. How much to take, how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With our homeopathic protocols, you learn your remedies. Athusa, no dairy, it's elementary with arnica head, arsenicum fed, spigelia slither, orm sperm wither, no more infirm. My family needs me, so I improve my memory. Not only the rems, but how often to treat, and when to stop, and when to repeat. With your homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies. Bella so red and arnica head, drosera bark, ignatia dark, source of frigid and cuprum to rigid, and crude itches, calica barnicum, let it melt on your gumbo, vista weed are some great ways to treat yellow. La 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 la, homeopathic protocols, learn your remedies.